The sun hung lazily in the sky that Saturday afternoon, painting the lake with soft ripples of golden light. Daniel had promised his kids a family outing, something simple and relaxing to take their minds off the busy week. His wife Emily had packed a basket of sandwiches, fruit, and lemonade, while the kids carried along a frisbee and their fishing poles. They found a shaded patch of grass near the water's edge, a spot where the breeze carried the scent of pine and the laughter of ducks gliding across the lake. For Daniel, it was perfect a place to sit back, enjoy his family, and forget about deadlines, bills, and all the noise of everyday life. As the kids began skipping stones across the water, their laughter ringing out across the lake, Daniel unfolded a blanket while Emily set out their picnic. Just as they were settling into the calm rhythm of the afternoon, a sharp, authoritative voice cut through the tranquility like a blade. "Excuse me?" The voice belonged to Karen, a middle-aged woman, marching down the path with a clipboard in one hand and a phone in the other. She wore an expression that could sour milk, and her pace suggested she had been waiting for this very moment. Daniel glanced up, a little startled, but he stayed calm. Karen came to a halt a few feet away, her eyes narrowing as she looked at the family. "This is private property," she announced, her tone carrying the weight of someone who was used to being obeyed. "The lake and the surrounding area are managed by our HOA. Only members are allowed to use it." Daniel stood, brushing the grass from his shorts. "I think you're mistaken," he replied politely. "The lake is public property. My family lives just down the road. We're not breaking any rules." Karen's lips tightened into a thin line. She shook her clipboard at him as if it were a badge of authority. "The lake used to be public, but since our HOA was established, we've been maintaining it. That means it's restricted to dues-paying members only. If you want a picnic here, you'll need to join and pay the fees like everyone else." Emily, still seated on the blanket, looked up from unpacking the sandwiches. "We walk by here almost every weekend. There aren't any signs that say this area is private or restricted." Karen let out a huff. "The signs are coming. Meanwhile, I'm telling you directly, you're not welcome here. It's unfair for freeloaders to enjoy the lake without contributing." Her eyes darted toward the children, who had stopped skipping stones and were now watching with wide eyes. "And your kids shouldn't be playing here either." Daniel felt his patience slipping but kept his voice steady. "We're not freeloading, Karen. This lake belongs to everyone, not just the HOA. You don't get to decide who has access." That was the wrong thing to say. Karen's face flushed crimson, and she pulled out her phone with dramatic flair. "Fine. If you won't listen to reason, I'll call the police. Trespassing is a crime, and I'm not going to let you break the rules." Emily stood now, brushing crumbs from her hands. "Calling the police? Over a picnic?" she asked incredulously. "Yes," Karen snapped, already dialing. "This is exactly why we need stricter enforcement around here. People like you think you can do whatever you want, but not under my watch." The kids shifted uneasily, looking between their parents and the furious woman. Daniel crouched to reassure them. "It's okay," he whispered. "We're not in the wrong here." Still, he felt a pang of frustration. He had come here for peace, for a quiet day with his family. And now it was unraveling into a scene. Karen turned slightly away as she spoke into her phone, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yes, officer, we've got a trespassing family at the lake. They refuse to leave. Could you send someone right away?" She ended the call with a triumphant smile, tucking the phone against her chest as if she had just secured a major victory. Daniel exhaled slowly, choosing to keep his cool. He could already imagine how the story might unfold, an officer showing up, questions being asked, perhaps even embarrassment for Karen when the truth came out. But for now, all he could do was wait, standing firm while his family tried to salvage what was left of their peaceful afternoon by the lake. The wait for the police felt longer than it actually was. The lake, once filled with the sound of children's laughter and the soft lapping of water, now carried an uncomfortable stillness. Daniel's children stayed close, clutching their frisbee as though it were a shield. Emily tried to lighten the mood by handing them some fruit from the picnic basket, but the tension in the air was too thick to ignore. Karen stood stiffly with her clipboard hugged against her chest. Her lips pressed into a smug smile that suggested she believed victory was inevitable. The faint sound of tires crunching over gravel signaled the officer's arrival. A black and white patrol car pulled up near the lake, its presence drawing the attention of a few joggers passing by. Karen's smugness seemed to double as she straightened her posture, ready to deliver her case. Daniel, on the other hand, braced himself for yet another argument. Knowing well that explaining things to authorities could sometimes go sideways, the officer stepped out, his sunglasses reflecting the shimmering water behind them. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried himself with quiet authority. Karen was quick to pounce, waving her arms dramatically as she walked toward him. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. His family is trespassing on private HOA property. I told them the rules, and they refused to leave. It's completely unacceptable." The officer glanced at her briefly, then shifted his gaze toward Daniel and his family. The moment his eyes landed on Daniel, his expression changed. His jaw loosened, and he paused as though struck by a sudden memory. Slowly, he walked toward Daniel, ignoring Karen's ongoing rant. "You," the officer said, his voice carrying a mix of disbelief and warmth. "I know you." Daniel looked puzzled for a moment, then recognition flickered across his own face. "Officer Miller?" Cautiously. The officer broke into a rare smile and extended his hand firmly. "It is you, Daniel Hayes. You saved my life." Karen blinked, her mouth falling open. "Saved your life," she repeated, but neither man paid her any mind. Years earlier, Daniel had been working as a paramedic when he was dispatched to the scene of a catastrophic car accident on the interstate. A police cruiser had been hit while responding to a call, and inside was Officer Miller, gravely injured and bleeding heavily. Daniel remembered crawling into the wreckage, stabilizing the officer and performing life-saving measures until the ambulance rushed him to the hospital. It had been one of the hardest nights of his career, and though Daniel rarely thought of it anymore, the memory came rushing back in vivid detail now. "I'll never forget that night," Officer Miller continued, his voice steady but tinged with gratitude. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be standing here today." Emily smiled softly, watching the pieces fall into place. Their kids looked up at their father with wide eyes as though seeing him in a new light. Karen, meanwhile, shuffled nervously, her earlier confidence crumbling. Officer Miller turned to her, his expression hardening. "Ma'am, this man is not trespassing. This lake is public property, and he and his family have every right to be here. You had no business calling this in." Karen stammered, her cheeks burning red. But the HOA are rules. Your HOA doesn't override public access rights," the officer cut her off firmly. "And harassing families who are enjoying a peaceful afternoon isn't just unnecessary, it's shameful." Karen's voice faltered into silence. Her grip tightened on her clipboard, but her eyes darted to the ground as if searching for an escape. Without another word, she turned and hurried away, her brisk footsteps echoing with humiliation. Officer Miller clapped Daniel on the shoulder. "I owe you more than I can ever repay, but at the very least I can make sure people like her don't ruin your day. Enjoy your picnic. You've earned it." Relief washed over the family. The children cheered, their earlier fear forgotten, and Emily poured everyone lemonade with a renewed smile. Daniel sat back down on the blanket, humbled by the unexpected twist, but glad that the truth had prevailed. For the rest of the afternoon, as the sun dipped lower and painted the lake in fiery hues, the Hayes family enjoyed their picnic in peace untouched, unbothered, and reminded that sometimes life has a way of turning confrontations into moments of quiet triumph